with semen retention, the first 5 days are hard. And then that's pretty much it. Like, I'm going to be honest, there are some days that are a bit harder than others, and sometimes randomly on day 16 or whatever, you just get some crazy urges for some reason, okay? And that's because your body isn't used to it, you're not used to retaining. And if you're someone like myself who's had a porn addiction for 10 years or even longer, then of course it's going to take a long time for your brain to sort of rewire everything in place and to completely rid yourself of this addiction, because a drug addiction like porn is not easy to quit. And I will 100% be with you all the way on that. It's not easy to quit, but that's one of the biggest reasons and the motivating reasons to keep me going on this semen retention journey, literally because it's hard to do. And I speak as if a lot of times like I make it sound like it's really easy to do, and it's not. It's simple, but it's not easy. But when you realize you chunk things down into days, into 5 days or 7 days. I have a 7-day challenge where I just get you through 7 days. I personally hold you accountable. I help you through the journey so that you can just complete your first 7 days of semen retention. And from that point, you could block it in terms of 5 or 7 days and just give yourself small bite-sized goals. And that's how you actually overcome this addiction. It's not thinking of the long term, thinking, I'm going to retain for 257 days. And again, count the days really doesn't help. It might do it first, and I find it does, like the first sort of like, 7 or 10 days is nice to sort of like tick off each day. But after that, it kind of just gets a bit tedious and it gets a bit samey. And then it's like being on a diet, right? When people say they're on a diet, eventually they're going to be off the diet. So like, what's the point of saying like I'm on a diet and instead saying this is how I eat now? This is what I do. I just don't watch porn anymore. And you've got to do more than just associate yourself as a person who doesn't watch porn anymore. But that is the start, okay? So the first 5 days tend to be the real like hardest part, because that's when you get sort of like the most withdrawal symptoms, and you get a bit angsty and you just get a bit fidgety, okay? And look, the first 5 days for me, right, when I finally decided, okay, fuck this shit, I just have to like get rid of this addiction, the first 5 days weren't actually that bad. But I tell you that for most people, guys say like the first 5 days is what really kills them, because they try to find stuff to do. Luckily, I've been someone who's always had stuff to do. I've always had loads of shit to get on with. So I've never had that problem of like, just sitting there and just like, don't do it, don't release. Because that's what I used to do all the time, but I don't do it anymore now, because I have so much on my plate that porn just becomes naturally a very low priority in my life. And that's what you got to do, not to the point where you overwhelm yourself and give yourself so much to do, like myself, right? I do that because I have so many different interests, and I've done it to myself, and I should have managed that. But at the same time, at least there's loads of stuff I get excited about, and one day I could potentially earn money from, all the interests I have from it. So this would be one, for example. Like, my aim with this is to make money from it, or albeit I don't want to just be like a salesman or just fucking lie to you, or like say I'm on semen retention. I'm actually not, because what would be the point in that, right? Like, I actually generally like feel these changes, and it didn't even take 5 days to feel improvements. But if you're looking for like the long-term things of getting female attraction and being able to sort of like, intimidatingly attract women, let's just say, like, when you're a guy in retaining, right, you become more of an intimidating figure just by accident. You don't mean to do it. Whereas like the first 5 days, you're probably not going to experience that unless you are like a lot more senior. So the first 5 days, I understand they're going to be hard, but after that, it really isn't like that bad, honestly. Like, yeah, you might go through a stage like I have. If you're naturally an anxious or stressed person, you will go through a stage where you experience a little bit more stress, a bit more anxiety, but that's where things like meditation, with other things and other good habits come into play. I'm not telling you have to take cold showers, because like, look, cold showers are great, right? Cold showers have, great benefits because of cold exposure. But not just that, it's doing something that you don't want to do. So naturally, you're going to increase your baseline level of dopamine by taking that cold shower. But in a similar way, right, just retaining and then keeping busy with your life and doing other shit, right, or even just going out with your friends, that is just as effective as cold showers, but over the long term instead of an instant kind of win. So if you think of this, the difference now, I just got to talk about cold showers all of a sudden. But I think it's really important to notice that when you do things that you don't feel like doing, you increase your baseline level of dopamine you can get from other activities. So let's say, right, if I've always been a video gamer, okay, and every day, every morning, evening, night, midday, wherever, you just playing video games, you have no life, you have no job. All of a sudden, if you just didn't go on video games in the morning, you suddenly increase your baseline level of dopamine so that when you do go on them later in the day, you've delayed that gratification. So now it's going to feel even better. And this is what I mean, right? Because of that, this all relates back to semen retention, which is that people find like day 4, 5, 6 tend to be the harder part because they've gone a few days without the really pleasurable thing. So now when they go back, it feels even more pleasurable because they've had that time away from it, because that's called delayed gratification. You're delaying the gratifying activity. The only difference between video games and porn is that porn is an absolute fucking cardinal sin, whether you're religious or not. And it's literally a drug addiction, whereas video games is just like a habit that, you know, it can become a bad habit if you do too much of it. In the same manner, like, you know, if you eat too many apples or drink too much water, that can be dangerous as well, right? So it's not like the video games are inherently really bad, but it's the fact that you have like no other life, and that's what's also harming you with semen retention. It's steaming up in you already, Christ. It's literally November now, coming to December, so it's getting fucking cold. You can tell I'm in 3 layers. But yeah, that's all you need to know. 5 days. After 5 days, it does get a bit easier. For some of you, it won't. Some of you, it might get a bit harder. You might get a bit more anxious. You might get more stressed. But in general, that's what I found, is after 5 days, it does get easier. But also, no matter how hard you might think it would get, right? You know that if you can do 5 days, you can do 5 days again. And you can do 5 days again. And 5 days again. And if you just have those small bite-sized goals, like I said earlier, like with my 7-day challenge, link in the description, by the way, you honestly, like, literally, if you put it into small chunks, you give yourself achievable goals then. You say, well, yeah, of course I can do 5 days. Like, come on, let's be honest, right? Someone who's addicted to porn, watches them multiple times a day. You could say, like, okay, well, you could go 3 days without porn, right? You could find shit to do. Like, you could just be away. You could be living in your grandparents' house for like a couple of days, right? You're not gonna, you're not gonna, right? Just to know you're not gonna do it, okay? So if you think of it that way, okay, well, if I was to go away, like, my holidays with my parents and everyone around, and there's always people around, and I got shit to do as well, I could do 3-5 days, okay? And all you have to do, right, is realize that when you get to those 5 days, it's not like, oh, okay, I've done my job now, I can go and relapse. No, it's not about that. It's about, is the work you're doing now actually meaningful to you? Because if you just kept yourself busy, you know, whilst it's all well and good, right, you want to be also working towards something that's meaningful in your life. You want to be actually have like a purpose, so that you have another reason, a fucking strong, compelling reason to not go and relapse all the time. Okay, and for me, it's growing this YouTube channel, okay? And ironically, it's about semen retention, so I'm constantly thinking about it. But I kind of dissociate between, you know, wanting to relapse versus this, because the whole accountability for me is that I can't be teaching semen retention if I'm not on it. And I understand at some point I'm gonna have to release it, because, you know, at some point, as a guy, you're just gonna want to release it. But I'm not gonna be doing it to pixels on a screen. You know, that's the one thing I make sure. You know, like, once in a while, I'll get like, I will relapse. And I'm being honest, I'm talking about this. This is every, like, it's like every month or so, right? Where I'll wake up in the night and I'll just be extra fucking horny. And sometimes it's just easier to relapse, because at least I sort of like relieve all the, you know, what's the word? I can't really think of it. I just feel like really like itchy or so irritant, so I can't just go to sleep without doing it. And that is a full-on excuse, because I could. But sometimes when you wake up in the middle of the night, it is kind of hard to control your urges. For whatever reason, I'm still figuring it out. But that's the only time I relapse now. It'll never be with pixels on the screen. And then people think like, oh, Evan, I thought you were on day 622. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. You don't count the days. The idea is that you're relapsing less frequently than before. Before, I was relapsing almost every single day. But now I'm relapsing like once every like month and a bit or so, like, right? So if you think of that, I'm not resetting to day 0. I'm shaving off about 7-8 days of my progress, but I'm back on it. But the problem is, right, you keep thinking you're on day 0 all the time, because you relapse so many times to the point where you've set yourself back 7 days, 7 days again, another 7 days, another 7 days, right? And it's only been 3 days, right? So if you relapse, you're in essence setting yourself back about 7 days worth of progress. And then obviously for every additional time you relapse on that day is basically another 7 days you're chucking back. So if you think, right, if you were to relapse like every single day, you're setting yourself back, what, like 49 days in a week? Like, obviously it doesn't go that far, but like that's the kind of sort of like concept I'm talking about. Okay, so the first 5 days, just focus on getting through your first 5 days. And again, I do a 7-day challenge, which I think is probably the sweet spot for it. So if you haven't already, go down and enjoy the challenge, because trust me, it's really beneficial. I've got people in there now who are trying it out and it's working well for them. And honestly, I'll literally come and I'll DM you every single day for the 7-day challenge just to see how it's going and keep you accountable and make this an easy transition, not something that's really difficult. Okay, have a good one, and as always, remember why you're doing this.